and welcome back to another episode of Let's Build a Mini CTM, the series where we, with your guys' help, design out and build a mini CTM map for the Monumental Victory series. So, thanks to your guys' great feedback as to the theme of the map, it has been decided. There were a few good ideas that I liked, but didn't necessarily think that they would be able to keep interest, or maybe not necessarily interest, but I don't think I would be able to create enough, at least at the moment, to make an entertaining map with that. There was a suggestion for a possible witch theme map, and while I have, as of yesterday, did a little bit of messing around with some ideas of what I could do with witches, I'm not sure I could make a full-scale map with enough unique witch variants that could make an interesting map. So witches will have to be held off for now, maybe for another time. The next suggestion, was undead themed, which seems very an obvious theme to jump to from arthropods or arachnids, mostly arthropods. And then the third suggestion was for skeleton themed. There was also one for stacked mobs, but I'll save that for another time. I think what we're going to stick with is for skeletons. While doing undead makes a lot of sense, skeletons I don't think get as much love when it comes to mobs as zombies do. Zombies get a lot more love with mob creation. So we'll be going with skeletons and seeing what we can do. And I'll get more into the other details. So that will be our theme of our map. We'll be exploring into variants and different skeletons that we can create gameplay with. So before we get into too much, I'd like to go over quickly our tools that we'll be using to create the map. We are on a 1.8 bucket server, and the plugins that we'll be using are World Edit, Voxel Sniper, and NBT Editor. We'll go over them real quick for those of you who are unfamiliar with them. Of course, we'll be going into more depth with these as we're creating stuff, but I just want to give a brief idea of what these plugins do. So first one, this is probably one of our first two, rather, which we'll probably be using most commonly, is World Edit, which allows us to do things such as create block variation through stuff like this. So we could set stone and 98 for stone brick. We can create ourselves different patterns, or we could set ourselves up with a little brush and do the same thing, setting a material of stone and stone brick and masking grass. So we'll be using a lot of our painting for block variation. We could also have, along with World Edit, we have the build commands, the Ultimate Terraformers Toolkit, which allows us to do the stuff like spikes and vines and mostly pretty much everything we need to do aside from terraforming that's involved with terraforming. Aside from actually carving out things, the actual painting of the environment and all that we can do with the World Edit. For terraforming, though, we will go ahead and be using Voxel Sniper, which is probably one of the more the second most used tool that we'll be using. Voxel Sniper allows us to do terraforming, as I said. So we could say make a blob brush. We'll set its material to be grass, and we can create little blobs, stuff like that. and then we would use world edit, for example, to erode down and smooth it out. I think Voxel Sniper has some erode features in it, but I typically use the build commands erode to do what I need to do. So that's our third plugin, or second plugin more or less, that we'll be using. After that, we have the NBT editor. NBT editor allows us to do mostly everything we need to do NBT wise. So let's say I wanted to make a let's name this sword with a red bolded text. So we could do 4L cool looking sword. Boom. Oh, let me go for name. There we go. Boom. We have our cool looking sword. We can do attributes and stuff on there. So if we wanted to make our sword have an attribute, mod add, let's say we want it to give us movement speed, move speed. I think it's that. There we go. Now our cool sword gives us 10% move speed. We also can do enchanting, but with the update to 1.8 with the NBT editor, I'm gonna have to look into what new commands they have for that, because Minecraft itself has its own enchant command that doesn't allow you to force enchants on something that can't natively have that, which NBT editor did allow in 1.7.2 version. So that's one thing we can do with NBT editor. The other important thing is the Book of Souls, which we'll get a skeleton Book of Souls here. Book of Souls essentially allows you to create custom spawners and custom villagers, pretty much everything related to that. So for example, with a skeleton, we can set if it's a wither skeleton. Any of the NBT stats we want to name, we can put a name on it and make sure it's visible. We can make it invulnerable if we wanted. Set any attributes for it, whether it has increased movement speed and whatnot. Equip it with any equipment that it needs, and define the drop chances for the different things. So it also allows you to visually see what your mob will look like. So let's kill those mobs off. Let's see. Let's give our skeleton a variety of random gear, stuff like that. So with the Book of Souls, we have a few different options we can do. Let's look at his items. Book of Soul items. This will allow us to enchant our item. Well, once we enchant our items, name them, do everything we want, we can drop these into the appropriate slots. This would be where his sword goes, or his weapon that we have in his hand, any potion effects we put on him. And look at that. We have so cute little skeleton. And then we'd be able to take that and add it into a spawner, which, if I remember correctly, give rock 52. Give rock and roll for life. Minecraft spawner. You're gonna be painful, aren't you? I'll have to look up that. But Book of Souls allows us to put custom mobs into spawners, create our own custom spawners. Let's just get rid of him and butcher him. So those are the plugins that we'll be using. We also use the Book of Souls to create villagers, which I'll just do that real quick. Book of Souls, get a villager. Which we can also do Book of Souls offers. And this will allow us to create his offers, his trades. So the first item slot in the trade the window, second item slot, and then what it trades for. And we have this many trades we can offer. So those are the plugins that we'll be using to create our map. These are plugins I've used for pretty much all of the maps I've created. Arachnid Apocalypse, Into a Nightmare, the beginnings of what was it called? the first map I was working on. I can't remember think of it off the top of my head. And Fractured Realms, Temporal Chaos. That's what it was. So these tools I've been using for quite a while, and I'm very familiar with them. They allow me to essentially do almost everything that I could do with MC Edit, maybe at a bit slower of a pace, just because we can't do as large of area carve-outs and stuff like that as quickly. But sometimes you don't need to go super fast. So before we get too deep into actually creating the map, I think the design phase will probably be our best first step, and this is typically what I like to do. And as if you compare it to game development, the design phase is probably one of the most important phases, as it gives you a good idea and general layout of what you're going to want in your map or game, and it makes things a lot smoother, and you're less likely to get hooked up on not knowing what to do next. So we'll be doing a few things before we end up getting to the map. This will cover probably the next few episodes. We'll be getting a general idea for area designs. We'll also be designing out some mobs that will go with those areas, or we might design mobs that we have in mind that might create the theme for an area. We'll also be putting together some custom items, which I'll be storing. Pretty much anything custom related to the map in here. We'll have custom items that we'll store on here in case we need to make duplicates of it, or we destroy one on accident in the map. We'll have a back of it. We don't have to recreate it. We'll also keep our Book of Souls in here for any villager trades we have, for any custom mobs we have, which is kind of back to this. If I need to place one down, I can just copy it. So first things first, let's go ahead and we will toss down a sign for area ideas. This is where we'll leave ideas that we have for our areas. I think over here we can drop down a sign for mob ideas, and we'll be building these signboards out as we go over the next couple episodes. I think some general quick and dirty ideas that I potentially had, at least related to skeletons, is maybe we can do something like a haunted house. It's an idea. A graveyard probably wouldn't be the best, as it's more, I think it fits more with zombies. But it's always something we could do. We can mark it down. Don't forget to leave your own ideas as well, guys. Anything that we have in our area ideas, as long as we haven't specifically decided on what areas we'll be doing, are all valid ideas. So much like the question on the theme of the map, I deplore upon you guys the thought, or not the thought, the question of, what area ideas do you guys have what you would be interested in seeing that fits along with our skeleton theme? Maybe something like the moon surface could be cool. It doesn't necessarily have to be skeleton themed per se. It could be a cool gameplay mechanic that might be interesting, and then we could work on designing mobs that fit within the constraints of it. Something with the moon surface, for example, could be an area that has low gravity, so you have jump boost permanently applied to during the gameplay of it. Think of it something like Ninja Academy and Ragecraft 2. So enemies within the area, as well as the player, would have high levels of jump boost, and you have to jump around to get to the various places that you need to. So maybe moon service could be a cool one. Haunted house, graveyard, moon service. I had one idea for a pirate ship, or pirate ships. So the player would be able to, there would be various ships that the player would have to battle through, upper floor, lower deck, and then there would be either cannons that you'd get into that would shoot you over to other ships, or jump type paths where you would allow to jump to other ships, or maybe even just chains that link the ships together, and you can run across those to get to them. And then there would be some deterrent for not wanting to go into the water, kind of thing. Another idea. We'll create a slew of ideas, and then we'll go from there as to picking which ones we like, and then designing mobs from that. However, if you do have ideas for cool mobs that you think would be interesting to fight against or be interesting to play against, do feel free to give ideas for those before we finish our area ideas as well. Sometimes a cool mob idea can lead to an area idea design. So feel free to leave mob ideas. Definitely go ahead and contribute with area ideas. And we'll end up deciding on which areas we want to use from there, and designing out gameplay mechanics, mobs, and general area ideas from there. As for items and traders, we will be having traders in our map, much like we did with Arachnopocalypse. I thought the traders really did well with giving the player renewable sources of gear or armor, weapons, food, much like we talked about. So we'll probably have trades for bones that we'll trade for sources of food. We'll have to decide what food will fit well with the theme of this map, but we'll have bone trades, and we'll figure out in general what other trades we'll want to have for the player. But we'll be including villagers into the map. As for custom mobs, I have one idea for a mob that was a potential use. Is something like a lumbering? I think it's lumbering. Something slow moving. Lumbering skeleton. One shots you. So the lumbering skeleton, I think that's the word. It's probably not, but I'm going to use it anyways. The lumbering skeleton would be an extremely slow skeleton, kind of very slow moving, always following you. Maybe is immune to knockback. He's one of those mobs that you can just kind of wander around and keep going. However, if he corners you, and hits you, or it just hits you as you're walking by, he has a chance of doing a lot of damage. Maybe not one shot, maybe just a really high amount of damage, half shot you kind of thing. Or if you're not wearing armor, one shot you. But an idea for something, probably a good chunk of our mobs will have similar counterparts to an Arachnopocalypse. So some high level of damage, high level health mob that doesn't do much damage or any damage, maybe just knocks you around, and he gives you useful drops to sub form of useful drop. Maybe we'll have lumbering skeletons who have a lot of health and we're very slow, but they drop something really good. So it's a matter of trying to kill them without getting touched. Game of keep away. It's an idea. We'll think about it. But again, a lot of the mob ideas will come from whatever themes we choose for the areas. We'll also have to, based off of whatever areas we'll choose, we'll choose the color of our wolves. Maybe we'll go with an RPG theme again. That's what I did for Arachnopocalypse, and that's what I did for Into a Nightmare. So yeah, we'll probably stick with the RGB theme again. That's what we've been doing. Let's see. So we got mob ideas. We've got area ideas. We'll have to design out some weapons, which we'll probably end up doing some type of long sword and short sword again. They're useful, they're very useful weapons, and they're thematic with the maps. So we had Adventurer's Longsword with Into a Nightmare. We had Skittering Longsword and Skittering Short Sword with Arachnopocalypse. We'll have to do something skeleton related. I'm not sure. We'll have to think of that. But along with everything I say, I've mentioned it once and I mentioned it again. Anything I say or suggest or ideas that I give, feel free to leave comments relating to them. Because I want this map to be a very a very team effort. You guys and me, we're both a team. We're all, or not both of us, we're all a team, and we'll work together to create a fun and enjoyable map. So, taking your guys' ideas and suggestions, incorporating with mine, is the best way to do so. But I think with that, that leaves us on a good place for the end of our episode for today. We came up with a few ideas for areas, an idea for mob, talked about our general theme, and went over the plugins that we'll be using. So again, if you have ideas for themes and mobs, items, feel free to leave comments. Even gameplay mechanics that you think would be interesting, feel free to leave comments down below, and we'll talk a bit more about those. Maybe have some more ideas for areas and mobs and weapons and stuff. These first few episodes will be mostly design related, so there won't be much building, most likely. If we do building, it might be redstone command block testing to try to create mechanics, but I don't think we'll be doing too much actual building just yet, at least until we have a clear idea of what we want to do, or at least a clear general idea of what we want to do. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Thanks for joining us always. And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or feedback, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. As always, this is Rock, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!